Hello, and welcome to the show with me, Jillian Godsil. Today, my guest is Chhavi Chadha, who is I'm going to say the curator, but who is the presenter of CuratedX, a very impressive new podcast touching all things crypto and Web3. And I'd like to take this show to talk about your background, Chhavi, how you got into crypto, you're traveling India, America, and now Dubai, and then just talk to you about what the ambitions of CuratedX are. So anyway, Chhavi, that's a long introduction, way too long. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Glad to be here.
Brilliant. So can we start off with a bit about your background? You grew up in New Delhi. Tell me about your upbringing and your schooling there.
Sure. So I hail from India. Been born and brought up in New Delhi, joint family, did my schooling there, my graduation and management studies there. So close to about 21 years of my life I've spent there. Developed a strong value culture throughout my life. Being in a girls' school, spending some time with my family, my grandparents. And then I think I stepped out of home for the first time after 21 years, where I moved to Mumbai in India to pursue my master's. And I think that's where I tried my career path from there.
Okay. And then you went on then to go to the States to study further studies after your master's. Was it an MBA you did?
Yes. So I completed my master's from Mumbai itself, SP Jain Institute of Management and Research in Finance. And for a couple of weeks, or rather a couple of months, we spent some time in the States, where I was with the Cornell University, where we did some courses in finance there as well. As part of the course.
Perfect. Okay, so you finished all your courses. May I ask you this time, at this stage, you have in your education, were you familiar with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin at this stage?
At this stage, no.
Oh, okay. So you were looking at traditional banking and traditional finance, interested in that type of stuff. And then when did you move to Dubai then?
So Dubai is recent. Dubai was earlier this year in January itself. So just before the time and after I completed my master's, like you mentioned, I spent a little over 4 years pursuing my professional career. It was in traditional banking and fintech space with organizations like Bloomberg and RBL Bank. In the enterprise sales division, I managed a bit of customer account success management roles, a bit of sales and account management, doing enterprise sales throughout my life, and then moved to Dubai earlier this year in January. And I think that's the spark which came in when I started to bring to light my interest and passion in Web3.
Okay, so what was your introduction to Web3? Did it come before you got to Dubai or when you were finishing your studies?
Sure. So when I was part of Bloomberg itself, I was managing the foreign exchange part of sales as well as the analytics division there. And that's when I got acquainted to this part of asset class as well, called as cryptocurrencies, when it was gaining more and more traction and more light in the 2019, 2020, 21 era. And it was then that I got accustomed to it. And coming from a traditional finance space, as soon as I moved to Dubai, this is something that I really wanted to explore because I had seen that world of traditional finance. I was intrigued and I wanted to know what's happening in the DeFi world as well. How does this move? So I think that's where I started getting into understanding what's happening in this space.
So your interest was formed originally by your financial understanding, so the DeFi, decentralized finance. Were you worried initially, as some people tend to be, by the dark web, all the Ponzi schemes and all that type of stuff? Did that influence you at any stage?
No, it did not at all. For me, it was more of starting as more of a platform to educate myself, to understand what's happening in the space, rather than just jumping on, listening to people and just putting in some money out there to invest it. But it was more of just getting into a rabbit hole, understanding the entirety of digital assets, what's happening in that space. And I think that's how I tread the path of building something called as CuratedX of my own, where I write content, do podcasts, and
okay. And is CuratedX, is it firmly on the financial side of things? Do you dip into any of the social aspects with surrounding cryptocurrencies?
So CuratedX, just to give you a quick brief, like I mentioned, right, I started understanding digital asset space in detail, figuring out what's happening. So it was, I like to put it this way, it was a multi-layered step that I took. First of all, it was a platform to educate myself. I figured out, okay, only education, only reading, looking at videos won't help. I'd have to start writing things in order to understand them better, what's happening. that's what I started writing. And then I figured out the second step was that there are a lot of people like me, similar, who would want to understand what's happening in that space. I'm not the only one here, but a lot of people fall in this trap, just figuring out, okay, what essentially is Web3, what essentially is crypto. So I wanted to educate a lot of them as well. And thirdly, I wanted to build out a platform for a lot of these Web3 projects and companies in order to reach their audience and community, because we understand in Web3 community is of the utmost significance and importance. And for people to understand what essentially these projects are doing in this space, that's where I started engaging with a lot of founders, with a lot of their teams, and doing podcasts with them. And that definitely helped me network as well. So that's essentially about CuratedX, fully involved in Web3. It's more of a media platform to help these Web3 projects reach their target audience and help the world understand the Web3 space.
So who have been your more outstanding Web3 founders that you've spoken with so far? Any favorites? Who are the favorite Web3 founders that you've spoken with so far? Do you have any favorites?
I think I won't pick people, but I think each of my conversation has been so different, so interesting. I've spoken to a VC founder. I've spoken to somebody in the real estate ownership space. I've spoken to somebody in the DeFi space, digital identity. I've tried to get hold of people in the different domains within this Web3 stack so that I also learn as to what's happening in the space and also help them, like I mentioned, help them reach their audiences. I think it's been very, very enriching, and every podcast is a different kind of a learning experience.
And then tell me, in terms of gender, like you're a young woman, are you actively seeking out other young women in this space, or other women in the space, or is it just, do you have a passion for women in crypto?
I essentially am, I think, a really, really strong admirer and follower of women in Web3. I really love seeing a lot of women representation, which is starkly missing in this space. And I do believe that diversity and inclusivity needs to be embraced, not just in Web3, but in any industry, and more so in a tech-driven innovation space such as digital assets. Because this space, we've been seeing a lot of women doing tremendously great work as well. Maybe in spearheading positions in Web3, leading organizations from the forefront. But there is still a little bit of a gap that I do see, which is there. We need more active participation, more women change makers in Web3, and they can take a multiple impactful roles like there's marketing, community building, product development, growth, which women can lead by example. So I think we're taking the right steps, but still a substantial path needs to be tread to witness a more considerable representation of women across the stack.
Do you think there are impediments for women entering the space? And if there are, how can they be removed?
Right. I would say, yes, there are impediments, probably in terms of not having a lot of women in the engineering and tech roles. But we have seen women outshine in the Web2 world as well. And I do feel exceptional work is being done, but there's still a different lens with which women need to be viewed to get an equal and strong footing in the industry. This has been the case in a number of industries, like I mentioned earlier as well, but each technological transformation and building, it shouldn't really be classified as a men's game, and we need more women leading from the forefront. And if I just give you some highlights, right, we see a number of young women leading Web3 businesses, maybe like Nikita Sachdev from Luna PR, Samantha Yap leading Yap Global, there's Katie Wood of ARK Invest, Survi Vashish from Paradigm Shift Capital, who are doing exceptional work in this field as well. And just to bring it on a lighter note as well, right, a very fascinating observation was made in a conference by Nicola Mendelsohn, who's a leading business executive, that the earliest Bitcoin creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, is simply assumed to be a man. Why can't it be a woman? So this assumption makes sense because probabilistically, there is significant representation of men in the industry. So the larger point essentially comes down to how do we increase this participation. And on the other side of things, I think NFTs, collections and communities, maybe like Unstoppable Women of Web3, they're bringing up that thought more and more. They're trying to get greater representation and give that power to women in Web3. So I think there are some kind of significant steps happening, but getting more women reach up the ladder in this space will definitely make a significant mark.
Well, I think that's a great observation. So Satoshi was a woman It is official. We've confirmed it today. Satoshi was a woman. Is a woman. Is a woman. Even was a woman. That's
Yeah.
really fascinating. So also, living in Dubai. Dubai is quite a hotbed of crypto and Web3. So you've chosen well. I mean, how are you finding living there?
I think it's great. You're very right. It's at the intersection of the Western and the Eastern worlds. I think it brings you closer to the community. There are a lot of founders, a lot of projects which are being set up and growing here, more so because I won't say the regulatory framework, but the government is also supportive with the metaverse plan. How are they aiding and supporting the entire culture of Web3? That is really beneficial, and that's essentially after I started my journey as well, right? After coming to Dubai, because I am able to network. I have been able to essentially network with a lot of founders here in person. Just casual meetups, understanding their perspective, having face-to-face interaction with them. I think that really helps you grow your community and network, understand what's happening in the space. So I think that really helps being in Dubai.
Perfect. And then finally, glitter. Glitter. Can you give me your impressions of glitter and what you like about them?
I think my recent conversations with David as well, right? They're doing exceptional work, and how I really, really align with what they're trying to do is getting more accessibility and bringing more relevance of Web3, not just to the crypto experts or the crypto natives, but also to the novices. So trying to build, it's not just a bridge bringing together Algorand and Solana, but I think the overarching goal of simplifying things in a manner that we're able to onboard the next billion users to Web3, make it a simplified platform so that everybody understands digital finance as a stepping stone or as a bridge where they're able to understand the Web3 and get into this Web3 space as well. So I think that's something that really, really connects with me.
Perfect. So thank you so much for your time today, Chhavi. Also, I encourage you to go and check out your CuratedX platform. A lot of good content there. And thank you, indeed, for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jillian. It was wonderful speaking with you. Cheers and have a great day.
Thank you.